Hi everybody, Rochelle Jones, Lunch and Live at 11:45. What is this? Tuesday, April 28th, 2020. We're here for another one, which, by the way, it's sending me a message with my own name in it, and I was like, what is happening? If you are joining live, hi there, thanks for joining. I have a link in my bio of the Instagram there if you want to click on that, and you can be over here on Zoom, because if you have comments or whatever, sometimes I think it's easier to speak those. So know that it comes out over here on Zoom. You could follow the link in my bio. It's audio only, there's no video, so you don't have to feel uncomfortable. Oh no, I don't want to be seen or anything like that. You have safety over here, but I just find it to be easier for me to communicate with my mouth than with texting. So if you have thoughts or questions, things you need help on, things you're wondering, thoughts you want to share, I just find it easier to speak. So know that it's over here. The link to follow that is in my bio, so you can follow over there if you'd like. It's audio only for your safety and protection. Okay, so we're on Tuesday. We're on the unknown large number week from coronavirus and all the changes that go with that. Tuesday, we've kind of been focusing a little bit more on life with kids in our midst, but just know that grief really is in all humans at this time. It's in the adults, it's in the small people, the little people, it's hitting every single age. Grief being those feelings that bubble up from moments of change, right? And it's the conflicting feelings. Like sometimes we can feel a little bit happy or joyful, but then something creeps in there and doesn't feel good, and that would be grief. It's this conflict. It's your heart and mind always in this battle back and forth between, I just want to be happy for Pete's sake. So grief is just everywhere. It's kind of a beast. Who's experiencing grief right now? Big hands up if you are. Thanks for the wave, by the way. Big hands up if you're experiencing grief. I definitely am. Everything I know, well, a lot of what I know is different. My day-to-day, how I go about life is different. For some people, that's including a loss of income, a loss of safety. Thank you. Hi there. Thanks for joining. If easier for you, know that there's a link in my bio that you can follow over here on Zoom. It's audio only, no video. I won't see you, but that way you have the ability to speak your thoughts and questions or whatever seems right for you. Anyway, some people are experiencing loss of income, loss of trust, loss of safety, and the thing is, our kids are experiencing this too. So whether you have kids who are living with you or kids who you know and can kind of have an eye on and sort of talk with, everyone is grieving, and it's just really important to know that to begin with. Okay, today, goodness sakes, I think the biggest thing for me today is just to recognize that I need my glasses for some reason. Sometimes it helps me concentrate and keep my brain engaged. It's like Superman. When he puts his suit on, he's like engaged. I don't know. Okay, so it's Rochelle's super glasses. When she can see, she can concentrate. Go figure. Anyway, so kids, I'm thinking of all the things they're missing. So yesterday, my little one, she recognized that summer camp that she's been looking forward to for a year, since summer camp last year, is canceled. And I thought we'd already talked about it. In fact, I know we have, but I think she kind of forgot and was hopeful that it would change. And that's the thing, loss of a hope produces feelings, right? And those feelings are called grief. Hey Ree, just so you know, the link is in the bio if it's easier for you to be over here on Zoom. So she's experiencing a huge loss of hope, and the way that looked yesterday was just down. Suddenly her spirit was just low. We were hanging things on the wall in her room, and suddenly her spirit was just low. She was kind of down. She's like, sort of withdrawn. And so I let her have a couple of minutes, and I acknowledge it. So that's the thing. We have to be willing and courageous enough and bold enough to acknowledge when we see that something's hurting someone. Hi, Judy. Thanks for being here. And so I just said simply, you're pretty sad, huh? Kind of in a question mark, but acknowledging that I'm seeing the feeling, because we need to remember that they're telling us whatever through their actions or through their words, but what they want us to hear is how they're feeling. So when we are really listening, we should be listening with our heart. And when we listen with our heart, we call it a heart with ears. And when we listen with our heart, we say, oh, you're feeling pretty sad, huh? Asking with a question mark. And she was like, yes, I mean, I've been looking forward for it all year, whatever reaction she had was similar to that. And yeah, I hear you. I'm sad for you to have it. I need to show her that I care. My tone, my face, we're talking on Zoom these days, right? And you see I'm a pretty animated talker anyway. But on Zoom, it's even more essential. Have you guys noticed that? Or on these like video style communication? It's really important for me, I need to be a little bit animated so you can feel my energy through the, it's a way of like hearing someone. There's so much of our communication that is outside of my words. So, hi, Nicole, thanks for joining. There's so much of our communication that's outside of our words. It's our face, it's our body, it's all of those things. And it takes a lot more energy, doesn't it? Anyway, when I ask her a question about her emotions that she's trying to express, feeling pretty sad, huh? And she says, yes, because blah, blah, blah. And I hear that, oh, she's pretty sad. She was really looking forward to this. So I'm just going to say with a question mark, what's something you're missing? And when I ask her what she's missing, I need to be willing to, again, listen and say, I just wanted to play with my friends. So what type of loss was she experiencing? Probably, loss of hope. But she was looking forward to connecting and fun. No matter what I do, I'm not as fun as her friends, right? So I'm hearing, oh, you're really looking forward to hanging out with them. What do you like about hanging out with them? Well, we act silly and we do whatever, and or I wanted to do the challenge this year, or she had a bunch of examples or a bunch of things. But when we finally get to the, oh, you're feeling sad, okay, so help me find, I know it's like sad about everything, but which one's really poking out to you the most? And when you find which one's really poking out the most, then we need to say, what were you looking forward to? So if it was about friendship, maybe it was about the activities. Maybe she was really looking forward to the swimming. Maybe she was really looking forward to the music. So I can't just assume I know what she's sad about. She's sad about the whole darn thing, but there's something that's speaking out more to her about what she was looking forward to, right? And so we're going to have waves of awareness of, oh man, that means I'm not going to get to whatever. And so then I can ask a question, oh, what were you looking forward to about that? Or what was, who's the most funny dancer? We can ask questions specific when we get to the point of what they're hurting over. Does that make sense? Am I saying this very well? Hey Jones, thanks for joining. So they're going to tell us the facts, but they want us to hear how it feels. So we ask a question of, were you feeling embarrassed, or were you feeling sad? We have to ask that question back with a question mark. And then when we get to, yeah, I was feeling embarrassed, or I was feeling like I'm not even important, I need to show with my body. That's where those nonverbal communication skills come in. I need to show with my body that I care. Ooh, that stinks. And I've had people contact me and say, well, that's not, listening with my body, that's not in my culture. That's not something we do. And I say, okay, then that's not something you need to do. But recognize, you guys, wherever you're coming from, that 80, 90%, 95%, there's all different numbers out there, but they're very high. Our nonverbal communication holds most of what we're saying, more than our words. So we have to be willing to try new things, even if it's not within our culture or our norm. I think partly we come to grief recovery because our culture and our norm isn't really working, right? It's what we've learned our whole life in dealing with feelings and emotions and grief, the heavy feelings, isn't working. So we have to be willing to recognize, well, that's not what I do, and think, well, actually, maybe there's a reason this is continuing, because what I do isn't helping. That makes sense? So anyway, we have to listen. We have to listen, try to hear those emotions being expressed. What thoughts or questions do we have bubbling up about that? Do you have an example that you need a little help with? Do you have a question, your own experience that you need help with finding an emotion in it? Where are you? What is this hitting for you? We've been going through this coronavirus thing for a while now. I've lost count of where we are. And so early on was the awareness of the different losses we were experiencing, just loss of routine, loss of what's familiar, whatever. But then we keep having new things pop into our awareness as it goes on. We're having new things pop into our awareness of what we're missing, and so are your kids. So I'm wondering, when's the last time you asked them? Or maybe they thought something wasn't a big deal to miss it, but now that enough time has passed, they're like, I'm really missing the schoolwork or the homework. But before, they were excited. So recognize that they're allowed to change. I've heard that so many times where people are like, well, you said you wanted X, Y, and Z, but don't we all change our minds sometimes? Or don't we all realize, have you ever heard that in relationships, absence makes the heart grow fonder? Okay, I don't even know if that's true or not. Maybe for some people it is. But the point is, sometimes people are really hoping for a break or time apart or whatever. And then what happens during that absence? They have a change of heart, right? So just recognize that we all are capable of changing our feelings or the way we feel about something or our thoughts, but we're able to sway back and forth too, because it's not all one way and all another way. It's always some kind of mixture of both. Not always, but very, very often. So recognize that if your child says something, well, I missed the schoolwork. What? You hate the schoolwork. You don't even do it. I know, but I don't know, it feels like whatever. Please, when they say whatever response of this new thing they're missing, just hear them. Oh, really? What are you missing about it? Okay. Oh, so you actually feel like it's helping you in some way. Oh, that's awesome. So I'm sad that you're missing it then. You see how I'm able to hear and feel? It's challenging when I'm always making up these examples. So if anybody wants to click the link on my Instagram bio to come over here audio, that is really helpful. Let's see. I was trying to show care. I was sad she was hurting and she didn't want me to bring it up. Yeah. She didn't want you to bring it up. And I picked up on that because we're not always ready to talk, right? I remember when I came to the grief recovery method, because my father completed suicide. And I recognized that there was a really intense, that first week was really intense. And sometimes I was just really sad. I was kind of like down, but I would go through the motions and I could handle it just fine when everyone was around. But when my husband went to work or my kids went to school, I sat in the chair, and sometimes I would sob, or sometimes I would just have moist eyes, and sometimes I would just be in this glazy, foggy stare. Okay, so the grief, there's no stages of grief, by the way. No stages of grief unless you've been handed a terminal diagnosis. There are no stages of grief. Grief is a little bit of everything. Some things, maybe one thing. It's just a mixture. It's up and down. It's back and forth. There's no linear or expected way that grief is going to present itself. It's just unique. And same with your kids. So anyway, with my daughter yesterday and being upset about missing camp, I heard my husband, as he says, he tried to reach out and she didn't want to hear it. And I remember that in myself, where to push up, or even before that at different times. I remember being in the Air Force. I was 19, and I might have been around 20 then. When I was trained, I was a surgical ICU nurse in the Air Force, and we were the code team for the hospital. And I remember being completely trained and knowing what to do in a code, but to see it happen and to have to do it and to feel it was a totally different experience. There's really no preparation for life until we have to do that one thing, okay? So anyway, I remember after that first code just being devastated, plus all the this is weird joking gallows humor that happens in hospitals and first responders. Anyway, I was so devastated, and I just found myself kind of unable to make words I didn't have the physical energy or ability for some reason to push the words from my wherever they come from and push them out of my mouth. So same with grief. Once my husband went to work when my father died and the kids went to school, I just kind of sat there, and so he would come home and my husband would come home and ask me, how's your day, or how are you feeling? And he cared. He was there. He wanted to be present, but I couldn't I couldn't sort through the question was so big. So, do I say this? Well, what is he wanting to hear? Well, should I go this? Well, what if I say that? Well, then he's going to want to, and I just had all this noise going on in my heart and mind. And I guess it took a while, because he would okay, I'm not going to push her. So he would go and thinking that he's protecting me, but I'm thinking he didn't even wait to let me respond. There's so much noise. We know that grievers have a good 8 to 10 second response minimum, or delay in their response. So I'm just reflecting on all this stuff. I see this incident happening with my husband and my daughter, and she didn't want to talk, and that's fine. So I gave her a few more minutes, where I'm just sort of aware and present. And eventually I just laid right beside her. I put my hand on her arm, and we just laid there quietly until she got up and decided, okay, I found it. I'm sad you're sad, Danny. I just shared. I wasn't poking at her with questions because she wasn't able to answer them in that moment. So that's what I want you to hear, is that yes, you could be doing your due diligence and trying to care, and they may not be responding. And that doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. You're doing everything right. You're caring. You're showing up. Sometimes we need to change how we care and how we show up, because it can be really heavy and overwhelming and just, I don't know. I'm fine. And that's when we can get a lot of the either ignores or the I'm fines, because it's too big. So with my youngest yesterday, she needed to not speak. It was too much. And if I really think about it, she's that way anyway. When her feelings are hurt, or, her and her brother get into a thing, and then it's just, I don't know, okay? She can't find the words quickly. So that's not really out of character for her. So I knew to just not let her grieve alone, just not let her be off on her own. I stayed there. I stayed present. I stayed in the area. I stayed with my heart and mind engaged. So I just sat next to her. So that might be the best thing you can do in that moment. Recognize the need of the moment. And if they aren't able to respond verbally, but you can see that they're hurting, don't be like, oh, okay, they just need to be alone. That's a myth. That's a piece of misinformation. We should not be grieving alone. So don't go walk off somewhere and just go do your own thing thinking they don't want to know, or they don't want to speak about it. Perhaps they can't. Grief is sometimes like chains and weights and blankets on top of our soul. And so when we're hurting, when we're wounded, to reach in and find through and sort through and find the path to bring the words out is sometimes overwhelming. Has anybody else ever felt that? Am I the only one who's ever felt that? And I see it happening in my children. So be aware of that for your children. If they're not ready to talk, that's because they probably don't know how. Or perhaps they're concerned about approval. Our kids want to be approved of by us. Loss of safety. So we all need love. Every human alive needs love, safety, and acceptance. Physical safety, emotional safety, spiritual safety, and acceptance. Not necessarily accepting of, sure, everything you do is right. I mean, if you have a teen like I do, everything they do is not right. Everything I do is not right. But I'm just talking specifically about kids. Like, what gave you that idea? That was not easy. Yeah, Cheryl, I sure will. I'll post this later. It's recording over here. But acceptance meaning to feel heard. I hear your pain. I accept that that's real for you, and I'm going to allow myself to hang on to that with you. I'm going to be present with you in where you are emotionally. Not acceptance of you're right. It's not a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of, can you hear the emotion of another person and accept that as true for them, and so they can feel heard and then have space to move forward. So anyway, our kids want our acceptance. Or their whole life has been seeking love, safety, and acceptance from us, hasn't it? And so when we make it into a right and wrong, we really really miss the buck per se. But excuse me, I like to breathe in my spit. It's good for you. Excuse me. So when you think about kids, when they do have something coming up, is something emotional going on, a grief, if I say, well, what's going on, or what are you sad about? It's so big, right? What are you sad about? It's too big. Or why are you sad? It's so big, because it might have 14 different things connected to it. They can't even sort through it. I couldn't do it. When I'm really down today, even with a lot of training, it still is like, I don't exactly know. I just feel off. Okay. So recognize that your kids don't know because they haven't been trained. So saying, well, can my kids tell me everything? They don't, because they first of all, they're wrestling through, I don't even know what to say about that. I don't exactly know what to call it. They're wrestling through, well, I don't know, is that going to be accepted, or am I still going to be approved of by my parents? Because if they're not approved of, they get in trouble, or we correct them, or we tell them, they get punished or whatever. So we have to be really careful that we are hearing the emotions. And here's the thing, guys, we can be present, we can be perfect, but they're still going to want our approval. So they're not going to tell us everything for the off chance that they might lose it. So that's what's sad about this time too with coronavirus and all the quarantine, is they're missing their friends, aren't they? And it's so important for the kids to have some kind of close friendship or relationship or something out there, so they have the ability to be heard and accepted, and the lesser risk of being judged, right? So there's a bit of loss of hopes, dreams, and expectations. Those are huge losses. But inside of that, the kids are experiencing the loss of acceptance or safety sometimes, because if the parent is always in, teaching mode, you can't make everything into a teaching moment. You're breaking safety. You're not hearing with your emotional heart. You're hearing with your brain, and I hear something wrong in that, so I need to fix it. Well, that's not going to be helpful, is it? So it's so important that we really learn this grief recovery method and put it into practice, because it builds safety in relationships. Yes, we will post it, Yeller. I remember feeling helpless when you were grieving because I didn't know what to do. Yeah, that feeling of helplessness. Has anyone, this is my husband Wes over here, has anyone ever felt that feeling of helplessness? Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say to help them feel better. I don't know what to do to help this person feel better. I don't know what to be or what not to be. I don't know. And we do that with our kids. We don't actually know. And in part, that's why we feel uncomfortable, and then we act or react out of our discomfort because we don't know what to do. And that's not often generally very helpful. So then we rely back on, just some training we've had through life, training through movies, TV, teachers, aunts, uncles, friends, parents, and of course our own parents and family members. So we rely on this training that we've had, and we just, they need some alone time. That's a myth. They don't need alone time, but maybe they don't want to talk. That's different. Grieve alone is a myth. We shouldn't be grieving alone. We should be in proximity. There is a moment of refresh that might need to happen. I don't mean to say that. We can't be constantly peppered, but that's why I say we need to be near each other. So grieve alone, don't feel bad, replace the loss, give it time, keep busy, be strong. All of those are myths. They don't work. And when those myths don't work, we start to pull out some intellectual stuff that we've heard over time that also isn't very helpful. So I just want you guys to hear that there's nothing wrong with you when you don't know what to do. There's nothing wrong with your kids when they don't know how to express it. There's nothing wrong with either of you for feeling things in all of this coronavirus stuff, because we're all experiencing losses of different kinds, mainly in the categories of hopes, dreams, or expectations. Those things that aren't happening the way we thought they were going to. There's a lot of sadness or just emotion that I would call grief inside of there when we have feelings bubble up about that stuff. And just specifically about our kids, be aware of those losses of trust or losses of safety. Even if you are such a saint, Your kids are experiencing a loss of safety simply because they don't have any peers around. We are not in a peer-peer relationship with our children because we have to also guide them. We also have to, like help refine them a little bit and help teach them. And so we can't be a perfect peer-to-peer relationship. So they are experiencing a loss because they're not in their schools or their camps or even if they're homeschooled, they go to class once in a while. It doesn't matter what their sports, their activities, they're just enormous losses. So please take a moment to acknowledge, yes, it's been however many weeks, but please ask the questions. Who's a friend you're missing today? Or which class are you missing today? Or which teacher are you missing today? Or, and then when they respond, just listen. Don't try to correct and change and minimize. Just listen. Listen with your heart engaged. Try to find an emotion. And when they tell you which friend they're missing or which class they're missing or, which activity they're missing or whatever, they're saying that because they've probably had a positive experience there. So you can take it a step deeper to say, so what's one great memory you've got about that? Why are you missing it? Just share one memory, and then they get the opportunity and see what's happening here as you're talking. You're hearing and you're seeing and you're talking back and forth and you're building connection, more connection, trust, safety, acceptance because you're listening and you're hearing what they say. I'm missing this friend. Oh, well that stinks. I hate that you're missing that friend. So what's a fun memory you have with that friend? Let's say what teacher are you not missing? I'm not missing XYZ. I'm not missing Dr. George. I don't know. I'm just making that up. So, okay, not missing Dr. George. All right. So what is a memory you have of Dr. George that is not very fun? Well, I remember this one time he did blah, blah, blah. See, it could be sweet and it could be sour. You can ask these questions in both ways. Tell me something you're missing or tell me, something you're glad about. And then you have to decide, well, if they're glad about it, that's because they didn't like it. If they didn't like it, well, share something with me. What is one thing you didn't like? Just say one thing. That way they're not like, I don't know, and they're not sorting through their mind or their heart, trying to decide what they could say that's still going to keep your approval. Do you see how it could get all like, blah, blah, blah? So we need to help them by narrowing it down and making our questions smaller. So if you say, what's one thing you liked? Well, I miss this one friend. Well, if you miss the friend, that's probably because you like the friend. So tell me, what's one really fun memory that you guys have together? Okay? Or what's one really fun memory that you have of this person? Do you see how that works? So you've got two levels of questions to go in there. And so when you hear the memory of, well, what's one experience that you really enjoyed together? When you hear it, again, only hear the emotion, don't go into what you did, what? There's judgment in that, in my tone, you see? So we have to be really safe that we can only hear the emotion being expressed. Not a perfect science, guys, meaning we're not going to nail it every time. It's going to get a little bit easier the more we practice it, right? So we have to just keep practicing. We have to have eyes on our kids and on the kids around us. Who can you call? Who can you send a note to? Begin pen paling with? Who can you FaceTime with? Just have an eye on the kids because they get missed so much. We adults get so busy in our adult life and our adult needs and our adult expectations and our adult, view of the world, and we forget that the younger people, because we think we're doing everything we can to provide for them and to protect them and to teach them and to grow them and to whatever, but we forget that they sure do have that experience with us, but they also have all these other experiences of their own that they're connected to, and we really need to hear them and help them be seen. So let's see. Wes says smaller scaled, more specific questions and being present. This helps. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Jones. I'm glad you're hearing that. I call my husband Jones. Yes, I do. I think we call each other that. Yeah, because when he says my real name, it sounds weird. So I guess we both call each other by our last name. It started off to be a joke when we were young, and it stays. Anyway, all right. Wes had his thoughts to share. Thank you. Anybody else have their thoughts or things they were wondering that they'd like to share an experience. I did it and it worked, or I did it and it tanked miserably. What do you have? What's been happening for you? This stuff is difficult because it's different, because it's new. New things are hard. I think I posted something on Twitter the other day that things that are hard are worth our attention, or something like this. You know, sharing our emotional truth, that's hard because we probably haven't learned it, but it's worth it because it builds safety and trust in our home and ourselves. When we start, you know, sharing our emotional truth, we start to realize, I don't actually know everything. Do you know how much weight that lets off the soul to admit that we don't know everything and we don't have the answers? It's just so helpful. But anyway, Rochelle Jones, Lunch and Live 11:45 on this April 28th of 2020, in the middle of coronavirus. I have no idea where we are in the middle, the beginning, of the end. I have no idea. But I want you to know that I'm here for you. I'm still teaching classes online. I don't know, maybe there are 60 to 80 people in the world, specialists wise, who can teach you online. Classes are still running here for me. Let me know. You can have my information that's in my on my Instagram profile, or reach me at griefrecoverywithrochelle.com, or choose a different specialist, read more about the method, find out about how this program is based on science. This is not Rochelle just speaking out of the side of her mouth. This evidence-based method works. And I believe it's the only one out there in existence. So go to griefrecoverywithrochelle.com or griefrecorymethod.com to find more information. Thanks for joining. I hope to see you live. Actually, we won't be back until Tuesday because I will be out of town on Friday. Got a trip coming up. You guys email me, text me, let me know what you need. I'm always here for you. I do the best that I possibly can to keep up with all the needs, which means sometimes I'm not perfect, but I really do try hard, okay? So, Rochelle Jones, Lunch Live 11:45. Thanks for... No! What's the no part? What does that mean? What are you saying there? No, 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 no. What do you mean no, no, no? What's happening? What's going on? What are you thinking? Where are you coming from? No, no, no. Oh, you're gone. You're so awesome. Well, thank you for caring. I appreciate that. And thanks for being here for today. Everybody, thanks for sharing your time with a special guest. I agree. Oh, have you guys spoken? Do you know? I guess we have a cliffhanger. I will be back on Tuesday and let you all know. And that's it for today. Lunch and Live 11:45. Thank you for being here. When you catch this bad boy on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share. Let's spread the news together because we need people in this world who are hurting so much to make sure they're getting true, correct, and accurate and helpful information. So I love you all. Thanks for your help. Talk to you next time. Bye, everyone.